Alright, welcome to The Chosen Life. Today I want to do a video. It's the end of February. It's cold as shit outside, but I want to do a video. I'm prepping my boat right now for early season walleye on Lake Erie. So as soon as ice comes out. As soon as I get a report there is no ice, or there's at least the ice flow is pretty far away, I'm going to start down fishing down by Cleveland, Ohio, and I work my way back towards where I fish my home waters of Michigan, south of the Detroit River, in Lake Erie, like Monroe, Michigan, Sterling State Park, all these local areas that I know, where they're going to head to spawn. So I start fishing them when the ice is out in Ohio, and I chase them this way. So this is, the video we're doing today is how to rig a boat, or what you need to get started fishing these giant late or early season walleyes. So pre-spawn fish. This is a very basic introduction to what you need to do this. I've caught several fish. I've only been fishing early season 3 years now, something like that, 4 years. And that's because that's the time you're going to catch the really big ones, like anything over 10 pounds. I mean, you got pretty good odds of doing it on Lake Erie. I mean, we're pretty lucky that it's an hour and a half from my house to where I can get in the water and fish them. So let's talk about the things that you need basically to start off fishing for huge walleyes pre-spawn. Number one, you need a decent boat. Don't want to go out in that water with a piece of shit, okay? It's cold. Anything can happen out there, so make sure you have a decent piece of equipment. Personally, with wave reports and everything, I would not fish Lake Erie with anything under a 16-foot boat with a deep V in it. It can just get dangerous fast out there, and you really have to know how to pick the weather. The bigger the boat, the more chances you can take, but still, it's still iffy then. I'm fishing off my black Targa 20 on my Tracker Targa 20 that I use for everything. This is my multi-species boat. It's rigged for everything I need, and this is what I go in, and I'm not going in anything with winds over 6-7 miles an hour early season. I mean, that's bare minimum. I just don't mess with it. I don't care what direction the wind is. I'm not taking games when there's that kind of ice and people could die. So make sure you have a decent boat that can get you reliably from port to fishing back to port. That's the most important part. Have your shit around. There's so many guys at these launches every year I see with broken down old shit. And that's definitely nothing you want to be dealing with in the middle of Lake Erie when there's no other boats around. It's so early. Ice is barely out. There's not a lot of other guys. There's other fishermen, but it's still pretty dangerous. Just don't risk it. So that's the first thing. Make sure you have a decent, reliable, seaworthy boat. My 20-footer here is perfect for me. I fished a long enough time where when I just wanted to upgrade and I wanted to get something newer. So I did. I went from the older boat I had. 94 is what my other boat was, and it was decent, but it's nowhere near this boat. As much as I fish, it was time. So the basic things you need a few different things to start off. First of all, is your boat seaworthy? Yes. Okay, we've established that. Number two, you need a way to get your baits as slow as possible, trolling them as slow as possible. So you either need to have a kicker motor or a trolling motor with autopilot in the front of your boat, like the Minn Kota there. The kicker motor I have, to start off with, this is probably going to be the easiest route to go. If you have a boat with a smaller motor, I have a 150 on mine, no matter what. We're talking early season walleyes, a mile an hour or less is where we're catching these really, really cold early season walleyes. Generally, that's what I do. I fish, sometimes I troll a half mile an hour. So you have to have a way to get your boat down. If you don't have a kicker on your boat, your kicker motor still, my 9.9, it'll get me slow, but it's not as responsive. It's kind of harder to steer than that Minn Kota. I mean, the Minn Kota the Tarova is a luxury item, but I have iPilot and everything on it. But I can easily do it. I used to do it with my old boat with my regular motor. I had a 150 on it with 2 big-ass trolling socks. So you can buy like an Amish trolling bag for your boat, and they'll get you down to speed. But its steering's a little hard, and it's kind of hard to dial in your speed that way and make micro adjustments. So kicker motor's a little bit easier. The smaller the motor, the easier the throttle adjustment. That's a 9.9 Pro kicker from Mercury. In my Tarova, I can literally get myself moving 0.2 miles an hour, 0.1 mile an hour. So that's the kind of stuff we're looking. We're looking for precision trolling. That's one of the most important things. Like, how do you dial in your speed? Because these big fish, as cold as the water is, they're not moving a lot. Okay, so you have to get your bait directly in front of their face as slow as you can get it, an easy layup meal for them. They're looking, generally the theory behind fishing early season walleyes is these fish aren't feeding a lot, but when they're feeding, they're looking for that one good meal, okay? They're not out there like they are in the summer, just rapidly running, predator type movements like that. I mean, some of these fish are old, they're really big, they're pre-spawn females full of eggs. So we're trying to catch them, got to get a bait directly in front of their face at the exact speed they want it, and that is slow as shit early season. So fishing, the speed control is a big thing. That's huge, 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 okay? So getting your boat rigged up with either Terova, like a trolling motor, you can iPilot steer in the front, or you can steer with a remote control, a kicker motor with a couple trolling bags, that'll get you down to speed. Or if you just have a regular, another way to slow your boat down, or maybe your boat's so heavy and your motor's small enough and you can get it down idling enough where you control that 0.5 mile an hour. So that's what we're looking for. Anywhere from 0 to 1.5 early season, and you gotta have a way to get your boat down there. The next vital piece of equipment is going to be a GPS chart plotter, and you know, a way you can mark your spots where you're hitting active fish out there. And that's any kind of GPS or sonar device today usually has a GPS involved in it, or has one built into it, and you can mark spots where you've been hitting fish. So you know if you come across an active school of fish. This time of year when you're fishing, you're gonna come across more fish that are inactive than are active. But the ones that bite are going to be the ones, that's where you're going to have your chance of catching a really big fish. Last year, the biggest I caught was 11.7 out there, and I carry a scale with me. It wasn't a lie, okay? Most of these guys say they catch 14, 15 pounders. I guess we'll never know unless I see them holding the scale. But I caught an 11.7 that was 32 inches last year. That's a big-ass walleye. So that was my biggest fish. And this year, I'm just prepping everything, getting my rods re-rigged, spooled up, everything. Getting ready for that as soon as ice comes out here. It should be in a week or two, it should be able to get out. So those are the basic items you need. A boat and either another motor, a way to slow it down so you can get your boat to 0 to 1.5 miles an hour. And that's not easy to do. You don't know until you get out there. So the trolling bags are probably the cheapest option, but if you have a kicker or you have a Terova, I mean, it's only going to be easier for you. It's going to be a lot more fun fishing. The next thing you need, trolling rods, okay? As many of these rods as I have, if I had all that money into really super high-end, really nice trolling equipment, I wouldn't even be able to fish, all right? I go through a lot of rods, a lot of lines, a lot of them break, especially with walleye. You're catching a lot of fish, your drags can go out. So what I tend to use are a quality combo rod. I use 2 different sizes. Right now, these are the 2, I bet I have 15 different kinds of rods, but these are the ones I have rigged for walleye mostly, and these are the ones I've been buying. These are Shakespeare Wild Series rods. This one, 8 to 14 pound line, it's a medium action, 7'6". It comes with a line counter reel, and then you have to put your spool on it. It's just a regular trolling rod. The other rods that I have are a little bit longer. So I have 2 different sizes, like I said. This one is the same exact rod, but it's a medium heavy, 10 to 17 pound line. And this one is a 9-footer. So I have a lot of different sizes of these that I've dialed in to fishing. These are a very important piece of equipment. You have to have these if you're into anything precision trolling walleye and getting down exact depths. So we'll add these to the list. We do need good quality trolling rods, but we're not trying to break the bank at them. The other thing that we will need on top of that, some planer boards. These are some of the more expensive ones, these offshore side planers. But they have a tattle flag system on them. This one I took off actually, but I have, here's an example. This is another kind. This is a opti tackle that has your spring-loaded system. These are all tightened down for fishing salmon, but the flags go down. They have a tattle flag system built into these ones. These are a pretty good price point. These I have had for probably 10 years now. So quality, they all work. If you're beating the shit out of your equipment, spend more money on it because you're gonna need more of it. And some of the stuff is just, in my opinion, it's just built better. These work unbelievably well, but I have had some losses and I've had to change some of the clips out on them just because they're not holding line like I want them to, but these will do perfectly fine. These are the larger size too. I carry 2 different sizes. I have smaller and larger. They all have the same flags on them for early season. In my boat, I do run an 8-rod spread usually. That's about the max I feel comfortable running out of my boat, no matter if I have 3 people are not. In Ohio, you can only fish two rods per person, per licensed fisherman anyways. So, what the fuck was I talking? Oh, so I rigged my boat for 8 rods, all right? You can see right here, you can get trees, you can get whatever the hell you want. I bought a track system because this boat has a built-in, it's called a track system. I bought this from Trax Tech, and I just put these rod holders. These are Scotty's, these extended ones. I found these on Amazon. They're like 15 bucks, okay? I have the high one, the low one, and then I have 2 that are actually in the track down here, and I can stack them accordingly. You can angle them, and you can get your little, you know, your flutter step down. Your furthest line out goes in the top one, second line out, so on and so forth. The closest ones are near the boats. And that's why I use 2 different size rods. So if my rods out here, if they're angled high, it doesn't matter how long your rods are. But if I'm tight lining near the boat or as close as I can to the boat, where I'm just running a rod straight down with no board on it, I use the shorter, I use 1 shorter and 1 longer rod. So that way I automatically have, when I'm running bottom bouncers or if I'm running like a dipsy or something, I'll run these extra, because it just spaces them automatically. So that's my theory behind it. A lot of guys use the same rods with trees, and you can do that. A tree just goes up and you got your rod holder sticking out. You can stack them like that. When I bought this boat, I had enough money into it, and I said this will work just fine. It does work just fine. You don't have to have, I have a nice reliable boat. I didn't feel like spending another $600 a piece on trees, all right? That's what they are. So it still doesn't matter. I mean, I could have since then upgraded, but these work more than fine. I mean, shit, these rod holders like this one, this is probably an $8 rod holder made by Scotty, and it is a tough-ass rod holder. I have Kings. I use these for salmon fishing. I use them for everything. Automatic adjustments, they snap in accordingly. The tracks go up and down in the track. You can do it however you want. So I do use these a lot, but I use 4 rods or 4 rod holders per side of the boat, and I fish 8 rods when I'm out there if I have that many people. The max legal amounts I'm looking for, you can fish 9 in Michigan, but that 1 extra rod just, I don't really care. I don't have enough room for it. I feel like it clutters me. I've tried doing it before. It just bothers me, so I don't do that. The other things you will need to go out and start trolling walleye in Lake Michigan, you're going to have to learn how to calibrate your rods. You have to know how much line is on this and make sure so it matches up with the actual line count number on here. If you just put line on your rod, you're not going to have any idea if this thing is accurate or not unless you actually pull out 100 feet and make sure it matches the 100 feet on here. So what you have to do to calibrate your rods, you have to just put enough line on and then walk it out to 100 feet. Mark a 100-foot spot. You have enough line on, you keep the spool through the eyelets all the way down, crank it up till it looks like it's damn near full, and that's the best way I can explain this. It looks full. So now all I do is I mark a spot, I tie a loop on the end of my line, which is already on here. I have this one tied on. I mark it under, or I take it, I hook it to that point, and then I walk my rod back with bail open 100 feet and see if this reaches 100 feet. If it's too much, which usually doesn't happen, you have to take line off. You'll know it reaches well over 100 feet before you get to 100 feet. If it's too little, you'll reach 100 feet before you're at 100 feet, okay? So that's usually what happens. You don't put enough line on. I mean, you got to put a shitload of line on. So I use, right now, these rods are rigged with 10-pound or a 10-pound mono. That's all you need. 10-pound 2 is what the next tool I'm going to show you matches up with how this all comes together, with how the baits, we know they're at the depths and everything else. 10-pound straight mono. I buy Berkeley Big Game. I don't give a shit. That stuff works great. Clear. It's all you need. 10-pound test, you can pull any fish in the freaking world if you know how to fight them right, all right? So I put enough 10-pound, and I buy those giant spools of 10 pounds. They're like the really big ones I order off Amazon, so I know I have enough of it, because I got to do 8 rods. Maybe some of them I got to do a couple times a year, depending on how much walleye fishing I'm doing, because I don't want this to fall out of calibration. So I have 8 rods rigged up, a 10-pound Berkeley Big Game mono, 2 different sizes, the Shakespeare Wilds, and then we're ready for our next thing, all right? Our next step to getting our boat rigged, and the next thing you're going to need is this app. And I'm going to pull it up right now. I should already have it. So this is our precision trolling app. It's on our phone. Look it up. It's probably the best thing to happen to walleye fishermen, any person that loves trolling, in a long, long time. You got to pay per bait, but what it does is, I'll give you an example. Any bait you have, like for instance, the most common one we use now, it tells you exactly how far back and how to get how many feet down with whatever bait you're using. The deep husky jerk, DHJ 12, the deep dive, we call them DDHJs. That is exactly, if your rod is calibrated with 10-pound Berkeley XT, to get your bait 15 feet down, you have to let your bait out 67 feet back, okay? Which takes all of the guesswork out of it. So what I'll do initially, I have multiple different large crankbaits, and that's what we're fishing this time of year, okay? Multiple large cranks. All this stuff, any of these crankbaits that we have, here's just one of my boxes. I have anything from custom Smith McRoad P10s, which is this white Wonder Bread, that's a perfect 10, which is on the app also, to a ton of the ones I just showed you. Let me get this fucking thing unhooked. DDHJ 12, all right? Deep diving husky jerk. And after a while, you just end up amassing every possible color combination, anything, because you have no idea what they're gonna want that day. So this is typically how my spread sets up, all right? I will go out, any bait that I have on precision trolling, I will go out and I stack. I'll go out looking for these pre-spawn fish, and basically I'm looking for structure like I would any time of the year. When I go down to Huron, Ohio, where I fish out down there by Cleveland, I'm going out to the first good piece of structure that I marked on my map, on my GPS, and with a little bit of scouting. And I look on here. I look at my map, my phone, and I find out, hey, where's the closest structure? I already have a couple places there that I like to fish because I fished there a couple years in a row now. But you have to know where you're gonna go ahead of time and just try not to blindly do it. If you go there and not marking fish, then go somewhere else. That's what I do, but you gotta be really deliberate and careful about this time of year. So I usually run this rig. I will go out, I'll pick a wide variety of these baits. I'll even pick 3 or 4 different kinds. I'll have P10s, these, shit, there's so many different, I have these, the hell are these? Flicker Minnow Pros. These are a little bit smaller, but they're about the size of a DDHJ 12. Different colors. I'll take all these different baits and I have the big ones. The theory behind the big baits is, like we already talked about, the bigger the bait, the more food they're gonna get, less energy they have to expend by eating. These mimic the big smelt, okay? These big, lazy, swimming smelt that are barely moving a mile an hour or half mile an hour, and they're going right in front of them. Colors, that just depends on the fish. It depends on the day. I've had days where you catch a shitload on one color, nothing else. The next day, nothing. So you just gotta mix them up accordingly and try it out. So what I'll do is I'll take all these rods. You always send your furthest one out first because then you're stacking them inside. And we'll do a video of this on the water, but I'm gonna run out from top to bottom, outside to inside, run them all at different depths, from maybe 6 feet from the surface to 2 feet off the bottom on the inside. Same shit on the other side of the boat. So we're trying to stagger as many depths as we can with as many lines in hopes that one depth is active or that one bait is picking up fish. As soon as we catch our first strike, boom, we throw it back in and we see if it's a repeat of the same color, the same size bait, and we hit that same spot again because odds are it's a tight, active feeding school. So we're gonna throw that and we're gonna try to catch as many as we can. Boom, as soon as we dial in on a number or dial in on a bait, guess what I'm doing? I'm taking notes, I'm taking the location, the size of the fish, how it was hooked. You can see if it's barely got one hook in it, if it's just engulfed it. 9 times out of 10, these early season fish, you got like the tail treble in their face. So that goes to show you, maybe, hey, you're not trolling slow enough. If you barely hook them, maybe you're not trolling slow enough. Maybe, you know, you're going too fast to the point where that fish barely caught that bait because they just don't like moving. So it tells you a lot. Fishing alone tells you a lot, but early season fishing is when you have a chance to catch these giants on Lake Erie. So, to recap what we're doing here today and what this video is about, this is an introduction to fishing Lake Erie. I get a lot of comments from people. I appreciate it, a lot of emails. But if you email me asking me something in depth, we're gonna get to that, I promise, okay? But the most important part all of this is you have to be able, first of all, be fucking safe out there. Don't go out and be these idiots. I'm waiting. I have good intel on the ground for when the ice is completely out. Don't go in and get boxed in. Look up your good weather reports. Join some groups and communities on Facebook. Each one of these towns I fish out of has a community of fishermen that I try to get in their group. I want to know who's fishing when. I don't care what they're catching. I just want to know what the conditions are, if the ice is out, what's going on. And it does help too. You meet some cool people. Sometimes people will tell you, hey, I was out there today and I was smashing them on this, this flicker minnow, kicking the shit out of them. Try it, throw it on. You got enough options, take multiple people out fishing. So this is a basic introduction. Get your boat down to speed. Find a way to do that. Make sure it's big lake ready, Great Lakes ready. It's big water. Make sure you have a selection of planer boards with tattle flags on them, good clips, and then you have a wide selection of baits. You don't need, it's honestly pretty easy. If you've never early season walleye fished in the Great Lakes, message me, hit me up if you have any questions on rigging. But all the information I just told you here, this is basically what you need to get started. You just gotta know how to pick the weather, okay? If I'm fishing out of Ohio, a south wind is the best on Lake Erie because it's all blocked by land. So I'm always looking for south, southwest, usually those two. Those are the best ones I want. If it's a west wind, it can be iffy, depending on how much room it's traveled. It's coming all the way from Michigan, for God's sakes, and I'm down by Cleveland. So you gotta be real careful with the wind and wind calls out there and picking different weather. But at the same time, that's the only thing you need. If you have a good seaworthy boat and it's early season, message me, let me know. I'll tell you when I'm going down. I'll tell you how I'm fishing and what's going on. I have no problem. These Great Lakes are so much fun to fish. There's so much room. The more people we have talking to each other, the better it's going to be. The more active there is. We're never going to outfish Lake Erie just recreational fishing, okay? There's just so many fucking walleye in there. We're not commercial fishing. So there's no reason why. I share information with anybody that wants to talk to me about fishing. I really appreciate them talking to me. I'm trying to learn more too. But this is a basic spread. GPS, a good way to slow your boat down, be it a kicker motor, trolling motor in the front. You need rods. My specific, I told you I stagger them, 10-pound test, calibrated rods. If you have questions on that, I can do a video on that. You need a wide variety of these big cranks, one big meal at a time. I'm actually trying these giant Flicker Minnow Pros for the first time this year. I've never used them. I like Flicker Minnows, the Flicker Shads and the smaller ones, but not these big bitches. So that's what I'm going to try. Precision trolling, though, is going to be your key for early season. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. I'm going to wrap this video up here. I just wanted to do one on rigging and staying sane here. We're getting ready to get on the water. Next step for me here right now, all my rods I've already recalibrated for the year. I did this like a month ago. As soon as deer season ended, I got bored of shit. So I got all this stuff done early. The only thing left I have to do is the lower unit oil and oil changes in my boat, my motor. Both of my motors, the batteries will be ready to go. I got to put those in. And then we just need to go fishing. So just luck of the draw, man. Let's get out there and catch some big fish early season. I hope to see you on one of these launches. I'm going to start off here on Ohio. You'll see me there first, and I'm going to move west as the season progresses. So as soon as ice is out here, hopefully the next couple weeks, so mid-March, and then from there, I'm going to start fishing from there to, Catawba Point, which is all the islands off of Ohio. That's moving west. Then I'm going to fish inside of there, Port Clinton, and then I move up to Monroe, and they're starting to neck into the Detroit River, and they just funnels them down. I go out and fish exterior structure out of Monroe for the big fish. Walleye, eater walleye, you can catch year-round on Lake Erie. I mean, they're everywhere. We're lucky we have that fishery. But the really big ones, if you want to catch them, it's going to be before they spawn. Once they drop eggs, they start getting more active. They lose more weight automatically because of their eggs. But then they start swimming more, and they come out of the rivers, and they're out, they just lose weight. So they're never going to be as fat as they are this time of year coming up. So if you want a chance at a world-class fish, the first year I ever tried catching big walleye, and I was never really a walleye fisherman, I caught a 12.9 pounder, okay? That's a 34-inch walleye I caught. It was a skinnier female, but shit, there's guys, I was in a launch last year, I ran a couple guys that follow the page, and they caught a couple 14 14.9, 15. I mean, there are some world-class fish in Lake Erie that anyone can catch, but this is how you get started. So follow me on Facebook at The Chosen Life Outdoors, YouTube at The Chosen Life Outdoors, Instagram at The Chosen Life Outdoors. So thanks for tuning in. I'll get this up soon here, and then let's talk some fishing. Let's see what we can do. If you have never tried it, jigging's cool, I get it, all right? But the odds, you cover so much more water, and the odds of you catching a truly giant fish just double when you have, double if not triple, when you have all these rods. Say you got 3 guys in your boat, you can fish 6 rods in Ohio. If I can fish 6 rods at different depths, the odds of me catching a giant fish, double or triple even, who the hell knows? But it's not the same as sitting over a piece of structure. You can jig the rivers and catch huge fish, but you're also going to be surrounded by, I don't know, 900,000 boats right next to you, and you just hope that you go over the spot where that one fish was hungry. We're kind of doing the same thing with here, but I'm catching them well before they're coming in. There's nobody else usually around me, and I'm just sitting here like I am right now, watching rods and waiting for one to go under, waiting for one to go under. It's kind of a different way to start your season earlier. And jigging on the Great Lakes, you can do that as well. But this is just, for me, this is, if I want to put some big fish in the boat, this is the best way to do it. So thanks for tuning in to The Chosen Life. We'll see you next. The next part of this video is going to be any questions you have, anything at all. Let me know. And the next part of this video is going to be on the water. But this is how we rig for early season fishing. Lake Erie for giant spring pre-spawn walleye.